Hi everybody, welcome to this week's Q&A here on the Beauty of Pastel. I'm going to dive right into two questions that I get all the time about how do you store pastels and how are you framing your pastels. Well, if you've been here for long or have gone to my blog or seen my Instagram or gone to my newsletter, I love to hang my pastels with little clothespins on some baker's twine. I love to look and be reminded of current work, things that are inspiring to me, things that I'm working on in the moment. Maybe I'm studying and working on clouds or trees, or in my region, I love to paint my beautiful Paladuro Canyon. And so I have lots of those paintings around to remind me of treatments that I've made to an underwash, or a certain palette I've chosen, or a certain technique that I really liked that helped me get an effect that I'm excited about. And so I love to display my work around. It also really helps when I have clients come over because they can see some of the work and pick one out for themselves. Now, I can't display all of the work that I do because I paint a lot, and so my main way of storing my pastels is with putting them in flat acid-free tracing paper pads. I like to follow my local craft store to see if they're having a sale, or you can sometimes find online coupons for these. And I like to store the paintings between each sheet, and I can get quite a few paintings in one little pad. Now, of course, I usually paint fairly small, and so in this case, this one is 11 by 14, and so I'll put 8 by 10s in here, 9 by 12s, and smaller, but there is a larger size then I can put some paintings in that are bigger. For my really big paintings, I usually keep them clipped to, do you see those stacks over there? That's just a bunch of acid-free foam core, and I usually keep those large paintings clipped, or paper or clothespins clipped to that backer board until I can get them framed. The tracing paper is great because it has a really low static charge, and if you're new to pastels, anything that has a lot of static can actually lift and pull some of those pastel particles off of the paper, and so we want to avoid any kind of static or excessive rubbing of the pastel. After it's been stored for a while, sometimes I want to enter a painting into an exhibit or send it to a gallery or even sell it in a framed state. And so for that, I'm going to show you a couple of different options that I like to use for my framing. For my smaller works, I really like to use a mat and some really lovely museum glass. And usually I choose the mat for my smaller works just because it gives the painting a little bit more weight on the wall. This one recently exhibited in Chicago at the International Association of Pastel Society's Master Circle exhibit, which was thrilling to be on. I'm so proud to be a Master Circle member of that wonderful pastel organization. Here is another one that does not have a mat, and this is actually a bigger painting. This is about a 12 by 16, I think, and it looks like that there's not a lot of space between the glass and the pastel, but there actually is a very, very small, very thin spacer that's lifting glass a little bit off of the pastel. Now, there are some artists that actually put their glass directly onto their painting, and that's a little bit of a controversial subject, especially in the framing world. A lot of framers don't want you to do that, but a lot of pastelists swear by it, that it really, really makes a nice, secure art sandwich to have that glass directly on the pastel. I haven't done that, but I do love to frame my larger works without a mat, because when you have this really nice museum glass, which is on this piece, you can hardly distinguish it from a fine oil painting. And so this is a great way to frame. Now, both of the paintings that I just shared with you both had a gold frame, which I really like gold frames. This one has more of a silver frame, and you can see that it also does not have museum glass. So you can see how much more of a glare there is within the glass itself. But I chose a more silver frame for this piece just because of all of the cool tones within the painting itself. This piece was painted on some black paper. So I would suggest you seek out a really talented professional framer. I don't love to frame. I would much rather be painting a new painting than cutting moldings and glass and putting all of that together. Plus, I just really don't have the room. And so I love to build relationships with framers. They know exactly what they're doing. If you use them a lot, sometimes they'll give you a great deal. I love mine because he's quick and efficient, and I know that he'll do exactly what I want him to do. Now, a lot of people ask if I put any kind of fixative on my paintings before I put them behind glass, and I do not. I use really nice sanded papers, a fairly light touch with my work, and so I don't have a lot of pastel that I really need to glue onto the surface. When you're using these really nice professional grade papers and pastels, you can really avoid having to use that fixative, and sometimes fixatives can darken the color, depending of course on the brand of fixative. They can darken the color, they can make those light colors feel a little bit more translucent, and it can really kind of change some of your work. And so if you're interested in using some final fixatives, I would explore the different brands and test them out on paintings that that aren't necessarily your favorites, just in case it changes the color and the consistency of the pastel a little bit too much. So that is it. I am in a hurry today. I have so many things to do. So that's it for today's Q&A. I just want to thank you so much for being here. If you're interested in learning more about pastel, check out my other videos here on YouTube. I also have some support levels over on Patreon. If you're interested in learning more, maybe would like to get to know me better, I would love to get to know you. I love to help my Patreon students with critiques and helpful advice on how to approach their paintings. So check that out. Every little bit helps, and I appreciate all of you so, so much. I hope you have the best day ever. Bye.